Hey everybody, I'm Jason with Ride Detroit. You might have seen me on TV or enjoying a cheesy slice of pizza, but most of you have probably seen me riding my bike around the city with a few of my friends. Now you can join me on a ride while I talk to some of the most inspiring and creative people I've met along the way on this episode of Shifting Gears.
I'm ready.
You got me.
Let's ride.
Let's do it. Oh boy. I haven't been up this high in a long time. Woo! So we've always stuck to like what we thought was hip, which is the most, people will be like, what is hip in Detroit about? I'm like, whatever, I think it's cool.
Right.
Which was like like people were changing the city and nobody was talking about it. Literally nobody. And I just feel like we were the underground, like, we were that bridge between the burbs and the city too, which I think was an asset. And I think I'm really loud and I love attention. So I think I was like a perfect person for that. And my partner Christy is really quiet and she hates attention. And she's very talented with the, sorry, I had to do that, with the technical side of things. And so she could do that side. She could be the behind the scenes and make me look cool. Because that's the truth is like, whoever's running your camera makes you look cool.
There's always somebody behind the somebody.
Obviously, many somebodies.
Yeah.
So over the years, music was my thing,
Yeah.
You were bikes, I was music. And this city changed a lot,
No, for sure.
Art was not what it was before Red Bull came here.
You're talking a long time ago. For
But you're
those
talking about people finally putting money into places and art and things ideas people had, Slow Roll legitimately was a bike ride of a couple of kids meeting up. And anybody who tries to pretend like it was anything different, that's what it was. And what it became is like a cornerstone for building a whole new community. But nobody sees that at the beginning.
it was such a bridge, at the time between cultures. You had African Americans, I'm just gonna say you had black people who were riding bikes, and then you had white people riding bikes, but at the time, there wasn't a lot of that happening together. And
No.
I think Slow Roll did is it really broke down and bridged and made it like easy for those two cultures to come together and understand that we're all in this together, much like music, you know what I mean? So do you remember like your first show that you ever did that you wrote about, that you might have been nervous, what was your first big show? Because you've done some big ones.
There was so many things that I was nervous about. So a little known fact, I was that girl who like wrote a zine when I was a kid and like copied it in high school when nobody was looking, walked around to the local record stores, put it in the record stores. And this boy in this band that was super cool, that I'm not gonna name because I never hate on anybody, he saw my zine and I talked about his band. And of course I was a very poor writer. I was probably 13 or 14 years old. And it was bad. I mean, yes, it was. But all I said about his band was complimentary things, right?
Right.
And he told me that nobody would ever read my writing.
Wow.
I was like a dumb you-know-what.
Of course.
And like he said it at the Wired Frog in front of everyone and like threw my zine at me. And I just remember being like, no, I'm gonna make sure that people like read what I have to say and like that I bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all about community, right?
Yep.
So like we started with shows, it was super punk rock. It's the Jay Navarro, anything he's working with, Suicide Machines,
Shout out to Jay.
all
Shout
that
out to
stuff.
Jay,
Like
my
we
brother.
start off with those kind of shows and that makes a certain group of people be like, oh, okay, these girls can throw a show. About 3 years in, I find out from my friend Brian Southhaw. Do you know Brian?
I do not.
He's tour managed for everybody.
Okay. I mean, I feel bad if I do know Brian. Sorry.
No, I
Shout
don't
out
know
to
if you
Brian.
do or not. I don't know if you guys would have crossed paths. I
Yeah.
hope someday you do. But one of the coolest things he ever said to me that I didn't realize because I'm a female is that apparently I get females to shows, which
Okay.
was not a thing in the punk rock and roll crowd.
Yep.
But I made it accessible to women because I'm a woman and I know what we think is cool, right?
Yep.
Hopefully, maybe.
No.
And
yes.
5 years in was like my favorite thing that we ever did. And by that point, like what you're saying was starting to blend is we started to have hip hop acts mix with super punk rock acts, mix with independent artists.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have shows in places that maybe people aren't used to going to, but they decided to come out and we would mix the weirdest crowds of people. And because of that, A, we could fill up a place.
Right.
But B, people would come up to me after and be like, super goth kids who came to see a band that I'm not going to remember their name right now, and I feel like a jerk. My friend Justin has this band that like burns incense and has raw meat on stage. You know what I'm saying? Like some of that black metal, like good stuff. Next to, you know, James Link and Eddie Logic and like a solid, amazing Doc Waffles hip hop set. You know, and these people are coming to me after and they're like, that was a good show.
Right.
And you're like, yeah. And also, how do you not know these people? Like you guys, I've both known for 10 years. You guys go to the same bars, you go to the same clubs. How are you not saying hi?
Right.
You know, and out of that kind of stuff, just little things like I have a song that I helped Tunde and James Link, like I linked them up and they made this song. It's the internet song that we on the internet that like everybody loves. And I get to be like, yeah, I freaking made that happen. Like, and every time I listen to it, I remember that day, like we went to Sava after and it was me, Tunde and Miss Corona. And like learning from Miss Corona, like what an honor there. Like we've just got to link up a lot of people. So like I miss the shows the most right now because we're about to be at 10 years and I'm like, we should be having a good party.
Right. So you're talking about you're at this time, you're kind of becoming and once again, this is my verbiage and not yours, but the queen of the local scene as far as like what's going down. You've got this blog. People are starting to know who Sadie is. When did it start to go to maybe the next level? Because like I said, I know for a fact that you've interviewed some heavy hitters. But when did it start to, did you make that decision to go to the next level or did it happen sort of organically?
So once people in town, like I never think I know what's going on or I'm cool or that I'm doing anything cool. It's just what I'm doing. So once other people start to pay attention and started to ask, like you've said to me before, people start to ask you like, where am I getting pizza? Where am I doing this? And it's like, okay, like people clearly care about stuff. So from the local music scene, it was like asking about ticket giveaways and starting to incorporate that to help my idea was I have this idea of like this kid who's never been to a show who gets tickets and gets to go to the show and I got to help with like that. That's like, you know, my excitingness. But then I was also like, why can't I interview that person?
Right.
Like, why can't Hip in Detroit? There's only so many like local or newspapers, anything. There's not that many.
I mean, you guys were like a blog before. Once again, all this blog shit was even like a real. I mean, like there was Tumblr, or but being
literally nobody was doing.
Yeah, nobody was like really. At least myself wasn't really. I was just posting photos, but nobody was really using the internet to that level.
To get everybody to come to like one place. So I was able to take like, look, we get hits. And we post all the time. People could see that it was like an active thing. It wasn't just some kid reaching out and being like, yo, I posted 4 times and whatever. It was like, no, every day there's something interesting going up. And even if it's not exclusive access, it's a good guide to like shopping local or supporting businesses or whatever. So I just start sending out requests. And, you know, I got to take photos of Courtney Love based on the fact that I said, can I take photos of Courtney Love, who was my that's my all-time like whatever.
I was gonna ask, like, is there somebody that has been like your all-time, because I know you love Lady Gaga, and we'll get into that. I mean, is love a word, or is it like beyond that? Because
I respect her, and I love what she's done with her art and her political whatever.
Okay. So Courtney's
everything.
Okay.
5th grade, I hear Courtney Love, and that is a defining characteristic of who I am.
Yeah.
That is who I am.
Okay.
I love her to this day. So like I got to take photos of her, and they're beautiful, and I have one framed in my house. Betsy Johnson, like she was the coolest in the 90s for dresses. I got to go hang out with her, have a glass of champagne, interview her, you know?
Right. No, absolutely.
Guar was a good one. Like, I've always loved that band.
So, Guar, did you ever see them or you just interview them?
A million times and interviewed them.
So, did you get all that?
I know where to stand. I saw them the first time when I was probably 14. So, like, and then I didn't interview them to my 30s. And it was funny because, like, you couldn't have handled them. They were very perverted and funny. And it's been so, but then at the same time, like, okay, Jack Sanderson, somebody I love, Clint Eastwood, who I have so much respect for. I did her first interview.
That is
Curtis,
wild.
our little board in the house. I remember when Drew called me and was like, this guy, he's awesome, listen to his music. I met him at Assemble. He was nervous. I was nervous. He's very handsome. And then I stopped myself because I was like, wait, how old are you? And he was like 17. I'm like, then you are a good-looking young man. Like, do not be inappropriate with this. That was the first moment I felt really old.
Right.
But you know, that was a few years before any of this stuff happened, and I have a lot of cool moments like that aren't these like huge, maybe outside of Detroit things, but things in Detroit where I'm like, wow, I really was fucking hip in Detroit.
Yeah. No, you
Excuse
are.
my language. Like
You
for that
are.
moment, I was hip in Detroit, and I did, you know, get to turn other people onto something.
You still do. So let's talk about that. We'll transition. Now you're not necessarily doing as much with the music and everything, but you've transitioned into still telling people what's hip in more so Ferndale these days, but you're still,
So the
once
reason
again,
I do a lot of Ferndale is because I do their social media, and I'm so tuned into the city. They have really grown as a place that's trying to do things, which
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
is so cool.
Mhm.
We still cover Detroit a lot. This last year, there just wasn't a lot going on.
Right.
But, you know, the last month, it's press release after press release. It's, you know,
did you see a lot of influx? I mean, as soon as we sort of started to come out of that,
instantly.
right, I called a couple venues thinking I'd be able to book them, and they were like, no, we're already booked out till October. So
Yeah.
I knew us coming out of this. So you're working with the city of Ferndale, you're handling a lot of restaurants. I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I don't want you to make enemies, but if I was going out on a Friday night in Ferndale, first of all, what would I do other than get food and what's my night in Ferndale look like?
I mean, it's a food and drinks kind of town. There's always a lot of art stuff. There's like Contemporary Art. They do a lot of outdoor art just like down here. They have a DIA Inside Out right now. They have 5 pieces. They're going to have a lot more murals this year. But really, it's all about the patios in Ferndale. It's about being able to hop from place to place, get a drink, get some food, get some tapas, get some whatever. It's a really walkable city. It's a super LGBTQ inclusive city. So I think it's a place where a lot of people can come and feel like they're welcome.
And I was saying, man, you know, Ferndale has some of the most progressive lanes that I know of to date. The double wides, all that stuff right up Livernois is absolutely amazing, to the point where it sort of has changed even my view, to the point where I said I'm a Detroiter, you know, so I've always been like, I'm gonna live in Detroit. I said, Ferndale might not be a stretch, you know?
Oh, I love it there. We live in such a cool place. We live in a place where you can get authentic food from different groups of people. I remember the first time I said, like, falafel to somebody that lived in Florida, and they were like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean? And I didn't realize, because I was so young at the time, probably 17, 18, that like I grew up in a place so rich in culture, because that was just life.
And we have it like, you know, we take it for granted because Hamtramck's right there. You know, like we've been going to get pierogies a million times. So we're, at least for me, when people are like, have you had pierogies in Hamtramck? I'm like, yeah, a million times, because it's right there. But they're still the world's best pierogies.
So I think that that's the one thing that I've had to remember and reimagine with Hip in Detroit, and that I've had to really think about in the last year is we're reopening. There's a whole new group of kids, and they don't know anything that me and you know. They don't maybe know that they should be going to get pierogies. So like, I think it's really important as the world starts opening up and as this 10 years hits, and like with all this knowledge that like somebody like you has about the art and the bikes and the culture, like remembering to take a step back and be like, hey, here's, you know, the 10 coolest murals in this area. Here's 10 places to get tacos.
Right.
Like, it's so simple. But
So before we jump past, because lately I've seen your Instagram, I've seen a little activity, I've seen you getting back up. So are you getting back into, is Hip in Detroit making not a comeback because it wasn't gone, but I see a lot more going on. Are you going to take over your throne again as the queen?
Absolutely. Like, we're back at it. I'm ready to do it. I was really depressed, dude. This last 2 years hit me hard. I am a people person, and we couldn't be around people. So I didn't know what to tell people, and I didn't feel like I could be. I felt at the time during lockdown we had to be a voice to just try to uplift businesses,
Right.
and that's literally all we've done. Was just share resources of how you could shop around this area. And now it's time to start talking about like what is life going to be post-pandemic. Like, you know, we've got a lot of stuff on the books. I got my first podcast booked. I got my first hosting gig booked.
Yeah.
You know, I went to my first event and did a good TikTok about it. And Yes, I feel inspired. Honestly, going out with you to dinner a few weeks ago helped a lot because I think sometimes creatives feed off creatives.
Listen, we've been enough hanging out and talking with you. We're gonna take off and we're gonna ride these bikes and we're gonna continue the conversation.
Yeah, let's
but
see
we're
if-
gonna actually see what they can do. Talk to you guys in a minute.
I'm going into turbo. I don't know what that is, but I'm doing it.
What did it feel like riding an e-bike for your first time?
Okay, so let's see. First thing is I love it because I love that I could go really, really fast. That was pretty cool. I got over 20 miles. I've never done that before. Second, when you turn all of it off, this bike is really heavy. So this is like a Peloton bike outside. Like it has that like resistance. So like I could see working out on this, which I love. It's just really cool. It's just really easy to ride. I mean, that's it.
Well, I can't thank you enough once again. I'm gonna let you get out of here because once again, I know you're busy. You got stuff going down. Is there anything going down this weekend that I need to be into?
I'm out of town this weekend, so I haven't paid attention, but I'm going to write about the DIA thing, the inside out thing, so that people actually know how to take advantage of it. And I'm going to write about, I actually went and checked out Monroe Street this weekend. And I think that it's awesome, and there was nobody there. So I don't know why people aren't coming from the suburbs and like enjoying that. It's free. Skating is like $13. There was like people wearing full mirror costumes that were willing to dance with me and take pictures with me.
I don't think people know about it.
Basketball, there was people having tournaments, there was food, there was ice cream. They have that ice cream that like they're pouring nitrogen, liquid nitrogen into in front of you.
And all
It's
of
all
that,
free.
all of that going down
And if you
downtown.
If you look up the parking on the website, it tells you which garages you can park in and they'll validate. So it literally could be free for your whole family.
You hear this? Everybody, that was more than enough info on what's coming up. Once again, we're going to drop the links for all of the ways that you can get a hold of Sadie and stay up with what's hip in Detroit. My name is Jason Hall with Ride Detroit. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and we'll see you next time.